Love is not a fairy tale. It is not the effortless, smooth, and endlessly blissful journey that so many people imagine it to be. The moment you feel like you've found the one, that deep, unshakable sense that this person is meant for you, you're also stepping into an arena of chaos. Because love, real love, is not just about experiencing joy. It is about confronting the inevitable disorder that arises when two complex, flawed human beings attempt to build a life together. At first, everything might seem perfect. The early stages of a relationship are often intoxicating. You feel seen, understood, and valued in ways you may never have before. But this stage is temporary. It is a necessary illusion, a psychological trick played by your own biology and emotional needs, allowing you to attach to someone new. But as time passes, reality sets in. You begin to see their imperfections, not the charming, harmless quirks that made them unique in your eyes, but the deeper, more challenging flaws that, left unchecked, could cause real harm. And more importantly, they begin to see yours. This is where the chaos begins. It emerges in subtle ways at first, a disagreement over something small, a misunderstanding that leaves you feeling unheard, a habit that annoys you more than it should. But beneath these small conflicts lie much larger forces. You are not just two individuals coming together. You are two entire histories, two sets of learned behaviors, traumas, and subconscious assumptions about what love is supposed to be. You are bringing into the relationship the emotional baggage you have carried from childhood, past relationships, and every experience that has shaped your perception of intimacy and connection. And this is where most people falter. They mistake the emergence of chaos as a sign that something is wrong. They believe that true love should not come with hardship, that the right person should simply get them without the need for struggle. But this is a dangerous illusion. The presence of conflict does not mean you have chosen the wrong person. It means you have begun the real work of love. Because love, at its core, is not about avoiding conflict. It is about navigating it. The chaos you face is an invitation. It is a call to growth, both as an individual and as a couple. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that you have ignored or suppressed. Maybe you struggle with control, and your partner's independence triggers your fear of abandonment. Maybe you have difficulty expressing vulnerability, and their need for emotional closeness feels suffocating. Maybe you were raised in an environment where love was conditional, and now you expect perfection from your partner to feel secure. Whatever the specifics, love will unearth them. It will bring to the surface the very things you would rather keep buried. And this is why so many people run. They assume that the discomfort means the relationship is doomed, that love should be easier. But true love is not easy. It is earned through the willingness to face difficulty together. The key is to resist the temptation to see your partner as the enemy. In moments of conflict, your mind will create narratives that paint them as the villain, the obstacle to your happiness. But the real battle is not against them. It is against your own unwillingness to change, to compromise, to grow. If you view conflict as an attack rather than an opportunity, you will miss the entire point of love. This does not mean you should tolerate abuse or a relationship that drains the life out of you. Some relationships truly are toxic, and in those cases, walking away is the right choice. But the vast majority of conflicts in healthy relationships are not about fundamental incompatibility. They are about learning how to coexist in a way that strengthens both of you. You have two choices when chaos arises. You can let it consume you, allowing resentment and frustration to erode the foundation of your love. Or you can step into the discomfort, have the hard conversations, and work toward understanding. This does not mean agreeing on everything. It means being willing to see things from their perspective, even when you don't like what you find. It means setting aside your ego long enough to recognize that you too have blind spots. Order comes after chaos, but only if you are willing to endure the process. Many couples never reach that stage because they give up too soon. They jump from one relationship to another, always chasing the illusion of effortless love, never realizing that every relationship comes with its own version of chaos. The difference between those who find lasting love and those who don't is not luck. It is the willingness to stay, to do the work, and to build something that can withstand the storm. So if you find yourself in a relationship that feels difficult, do not assume it is doomed. Instead, ask yourself, is this difficulty the kind that leads to destruction, or is it the kind that leads to transformation? If it is the latter, then step forward bravely. Face the chaos, because on the other side of it is something deeper than passion, deeper than infatuation, something real, something earned, something that lasts. Love is often painted as the ultimate source of happiness, a feeling of warmth and security that erases loneliness and brings meaning to life. And while love does bring joy, it also comes with suffering. That suffering is not a sign that something is wrong. It is not an indication that you have chosen poorly or that the relationship is broken beyond repair. Rather, it is an unavoidable reality of deep human connection. Anything truly meaningful in life requires sacrifice, effort, and endurance, and love is no exception. If you expect love to be free of suffering, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. But if you understand that suffering is part of the process, you will find that it is worth it. The suffering in love takes many forms. Sometimes it is the pain of self-confrontation. A relationship is a mirror, and when you love someone deeply, they reflect back to you the parts of yourself that you would rather not see. You may believe yourself to be patient, but then your partner tests that patience in ways you never imagined. You may think of yourself as kind, but when you are tired, frustrated, or hurt, you may see a side of yourself that is cruel or dismissive. Love forces you to face your own flaws, and that process is painful. It is uncomfortable to realize that you are not always the person you wish to be, that your insecurities, fears, and past wounds impact the way you treat the person you care about most. But without that suffering, there is no growth. Another form of suffering comes from the inevitable friction between two individuals. No matter how much you love each other, you are different people with different experiences, desires, and ways of seeing the world. Conflict is unavoidable. Some people believe that if they have found the right person, they should never fight. But that is a naive and dangerous idea. Disagreements are not a sign of incompatibility. They are a sign of two people trying to merge their lives in a way that makes sense. But those disagreements can be painful. They can shake your sense of security, make you feel misunderstood, or expose wounds from the past that have never fully healed. The question is not whether you will experience conflict. The question is whether you will face it with a willingness to learn, to understand, and to grow together rather than apart. Then there is the suffering that comes from the sacrifices love requires. To truly love someone means putting their needs alongside your own, sometimes even before your own. This does not mean abandoning yourself, but it does mean recognizing that love is not just about taking, it is about giving. There will be moments when you will have to compromise, when you will have to put in effort even when you are exhausted, when you will have to be there for your partner even when it is inconvenient. You will not always feel like showing love, but love is not just a feeling, it is a choice, a commitment, a responsibility. And that responsibility can feel heavy at times. But that weight is what makes love real. Perhaps the most profound suffering in love comes from the fear of loss. When you truly love someone, you become vulnerable in a way that nothing else allows. You are no longer just responsible for your own happiness. You are deeply connected to another person, and their pain becomes your pain. Their struggles affect you. Their hardships become intertwined with your own. And at the back of your mind, you know that nothing lasts forever. There is always the possibility of heartbreak, of loss, of change. Some people avoid love altogether because they cannot bear the thought of losing it. But to close yourself off from love out of fear is to close yourself off from one of the deepest and most meaningful aspects of life. The pain of losing love is real, but the pain of never having loved at all is far worse. Despite all this suffering, love is worth it, not because it is easy, but because it is meaningful. Anything that makes you a better person, that challenges you, that deepens your understanding of yourself and the world is worth it. Love is not just about happiness. It is about transformation. It is about becoming someone who can love fully, who can endure difficulty, who can remain committed even when things are not perfect. It is about finding someone with whom you can share, not just the good moments, but the struggles, the failures, and the fears. If you are looking for love that is effortless, you will not find it. And if you do find something that seems effortless, it will not last. Love that lasts is love that has been tested, that has survived hardship, that has been chosen again and again despite the difficulties. You will suffer for love, but you will also be shaped by it. You will learn patience, resilience, and selflessness. You will discover the kind of person you are when you are pushed to your limits. You will realize that love is not just about receiving, it is about giving, about building something stronger than either of you could create alone. In the end, love is worth the suffering because it is the suffering that gives it depth. The joy of love is made richer by the hardships endured together. The laughter is sweeter because of the tears that have been shed. The bond is stronger because it has been tested. And when you look back, you will not remember only the easy moments. You will remember the times when you fought for each other, when you stood by each other, when you chose love even when it was difficult. That is what makes love real. And that is why, despite the suffering, it is worth it. Love has a way of revealing who you truly are. It does not simply magnify the best parts of you, the kind, generous, and affectionate qualities you like to showcase. It also forces you to confront the parts of yourself that you would rather ignore. When you enter a serious relationship, you bring with you years of habits, patterns, and emotional responses that have been shaped by your past experiences. Some of these are helpful, others are destructive. And if you are not willing to take responsibility for your own shortcomings, those destructive tendencies will erode the very foundation of your relationship. It is easy to blame your partner when things go wrong, When conflicts arise, your instinct might be to look outward, to focus on what they did wrong, how they failed to meet your expectations, or how they should change to make things better. But this mindset is not only unhelpful, it is dangerous. The moment you shift all the responsibility onto your partner, you surrender your ability to grow. You become passive, expecting them to do all the work while avoiding the uncomfortable but necessary process of self-reflection. Every person carries flaws into a relationship. Perhaps you struggle with communication, shutting down when things get difficult instead of expressing your thoughts honestly. Maybe you have a tendency to get defensive, unwilling to accept even constructive criticism because it feels like an attack on your self-worth. Or maybe you hold on to resentment, keeping a mental tally of every perceived wrong rather than addressing issues openly. Whatever your specific shortcomings are, they will show up in your relationship. And if you do not take responsibility for them, they will create a cycle of conflict that never truly resolves. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It does not mean accepting mistreatment or excusing your partner's harmful behavior. Rather, it means acknowledging the role you play in the dynamic of your relationship. It means asking yourself hard questions. How do I contribute to our misunderstandings? What insecurities do I bring into this relationship that affect how I respond to my partner? Am I truly listening when they express their needs? Or am I filtering their words through my own fears and biases? One of the biggest challenges in relationships is recognizing that your emotions, while valid, are not always an accurate reflection of reality. If you feel hurt, it is easy to assume that your partner must have intended to hurt you. If you feel unappreciated, you might conclude that they do not care about you. But feelings are complex, and they are often influenced by past wounds that have nothing to do with your current partner. If you have been betrayed before, you may see signs of betrayal even where none exist. If you have experienced abandonment, you may react to minor conflicts with an exaggerated fear of being left. These emotional reactions are understandable, but they are not your partner's responsibility to fix. They are yours. Self-awareness is the foundation of taking responsibility. It requires looking inward with honesty and humility, identifying your weaknesses and actively working to improve them. If you know that you struggle with communication, make an effort to express yourself more clearly rather than expecting your partner to read your mind. If you recognize that you have a tendency to be overly critical, practice gratitude and appreciation instead of focusing only on what is lacking. If you realize that your reactions are sometimes driven by past trauma, seek to understand those patterns so that you do not unfairly project them onto your partner. Personal growth is not just beneficial for your relationship, it is essential. A healthy relationship consists of two individuals who are committed to becoming better, not just for themselves, but for each other. This does not mean striving for perfection. No one is perfect, and love is not about eliminating all flaws. But it does mean being willing to acknowledge when you are wrong, to apologize sincerely, and to make changes when necessary. It means valuing your partner enough to recognize that your actions and attitudes affect them, and that improving yourself is one of the greatest acts of love you can offer. When both partners take responsibility for their own shortcomings, the relationship becomes a space for growth rather than a battleground for blame. Instead of getting stuck in endless cycles of argument and resentment, you begin to work as a team, finding solutions rather than just assigning fault. You become more patient, more compassionate, and more resilient. You develop the ability to love in a way that is not just reactive, but intentional. The truth is, no relationship can thrive if one or both partners refuse to take responsibility. If you are always waiting for your partner to change while ignoring your own need for growth, you will find yourself in the same conflicts over and over again. But when you step up and own your part in the relationship, you gain power. The power to improve, to transform, and to create a love that is strong enough to withstand life's inevitable difficulties. So if you want a lasting, meaningful relationship, do not fall into the trap of believing that the problem is always the other person. Look inward first. Take responsibility for your own shortcomings, because the moment you do, you open the door to a deeper, more fulfilling love. One that is built not on blame and defensiveness, but on mutual respect, understanding, and the continuous pursuit of becoming the best version of yourself. There will come a moment in your relationship when everything feels overwhelming. The arguments seem endless, the misunderstandings pile up, and the sense of closeness you once had starts to feel like a distant memory. In these moments, a thought will creep into your mind. Maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe I should just leave. This is one of the most common temptations in any serious relationship, the urge to run when things get hard. It is a deeply ingrained survival instinct, a way to protect yourself from pain, disappointment, and vulnerability. When love stops feeling effortless, your mind starts searching for an escape route. You tell yourself that maybe the right person wouldn't make you feel this way, that real love shouldn't be this complicated. But this is a dangerous illusion. Every relationship, no matter how strong, will reach a point where it is tested by hardship. And how you respond in that moment will determine whether your love grows deeper or whether it falls apart. One of the biggest reasons people feel tempted to run is because they assume that conflict means incompatibility. But conflict is not a sign that something is broken. It is a sign that two people with different experiences, emotions, and needs are trying to build something together. That process will never be seamless. You will disagree. You will hurt each other, sometimes without meaning to. You will have moments when you feel misunderstood or unappreciated. But these struggles are not a reason to walk away. They are an opportunity to build something real. Another reason people run is fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of being hurt, fear of not being enough. Love requires you to open yourself up in ways that are deeply uncomfortable. It forces you to share your fears, your insecurities, your deepest emotions. And when things become difficult, that vulnerability can feel like too much to bear. It is easier to walk away than to risk being wounded even more. But real love demands that you stay, that you face the discomfort, that you work through the challenges rather than avoiding them. Of course, there are situations where leaving is necessary. No one should stay in a relationship that is abusive, toxic, or emotionally destructive. But far too often, people leave not because the relationship is truly unhealthy, but because they are unwilling to endure the natural struggles that come with love. They chase an illusion of effortless romance, only to find themselves facing the same difficulties in their next relationship and the next. The truth is, if you always run when things get hard, you will never experience the depth of love that comes from staying. There's a kind of intimacy that only forms when two people weather the storm together, when they choose each other even in the most difficult moments. The love that lasts is not the love that never struggles. It is the love that refuses to give up. Resentment is one of the most dangerous forces in a relationship. It starts small. An unresolved disagreement, a perceived slight, a moment of feeling unappreciated. At first you brush it off. You tell yourself it's not worth bringing up, that it will pass. But over time, those little moments accumulate. A sarcastic comment here, an unmet expectation there, and suddenly you find yourself holding on to a quiet but persistent bitterness. You start keeping score, tallying every time you feel wronged, every moment you feel like you are giving more than you are receiving. And if left unchecked, that resentment will erode the foundation of your love. Every couple will face situations where resentment has the chance to take root. Maybe you feel like you are the one always compromising, always putting in more effort, always making sacrifices, while your partner seems unaware or ungrateful. Maybe they said something months ago that hurt you deeply, but you never fully addressed it, and now it lingers in the back of your mind, coloring every interaction. Maybe they failed to show up for you in a moment when you needed them most, and now you find yourself questioning whether they truly care. Resentment is dangerous because it does not simply stay contained within a single moment of frustration. It grows. It begins to shape how you see your partner. You start interpreting their actions through the lens of past disappointments. Even when they do something good, it doesn't feel like enough. You convince yourself that they should have done more, that they should have known better. And once resentment takes hold, it is difficult to see your partner with the same love and generosity that you once did. The only way to fight resentment is to confront it directly. That means being honest with yourself and with your partner. If something is bothering you, you need to address it before it festers. This does not mean attacking your partner or listing every grievance in an angry outburst. It means calmly and clearly expressing your feelings, not as a way to place blame, but as a way to seek understanding and resolution. It also means letting go of unrealistic expectations. No partner is perfect. No one will always meet your needs exactly the way you want them to. You too will make mistakes, disappoint your partner, and fail to show up in the ways they expect. Love is not about perfection. It is about grace. It is about recognizing that your partner is human just as you are and choosing to focus on their efforts rather than their shortcomings. If you allow resentment to control you, it will poison your relationship. But if you choose to fight against it by communicating, by forgiving, by choosing gratitude over bitterness, you will build a love that is stronger, deeper, and far more resilient. Love cannot survive in an environment of resentment, but it thrives in a space of honesty, patience, and mutual effort.